Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to change the oil and oil filter on a Hyundai Santa Fe 2003. This is the 6-cylinder 3.5 liter engine. So next I'm going to show you the gear and supplies you're going to need to actually get the job done. Here are all the tools and supplies that I use to do the oil change. We have a set of ramps, which are, I'd say, optional, but extremely nice to have. You can actually get underneath the engine without using the ramps, but it's much nicer if you have a set of ramps. A drain pan, an 80 millimeter filter wrench, a 3/8 inch ratchet, a 17 millimeter socket, a 6-inch extension. Now you're going to need that to use the wrench on the filter. A foot-pounds torque wrench, the oil filter that's from Hyundai. I like to use nothing but Hyundai filters. I think they're excellent. Part number on that oil filter right there is 26300-35503, and it's what's spec for this engine. And as well, I'm going to be using full synthetic Quaker State over here. I got 5 quarts of it. They do spec that it's a total of 4.54 quarts to do an oil change. So I got a little extra, that's okay. And basically, that's all. Those are all the tools and supplies you're going to need to do this. Here we are looking down into the engine compartment. I have a video on how to open the hood on this vehicle, so I didn't do that procedure here. You can click on the link I'm going to supply here to go look at that video if you don't know how to get into the engine compartment. First thing that Hyundai wants you to do before you do anything with the oil change is they want you to do this on a hot engine. So start the engine up, warm it up, drive it around for 10 minutes, and then park the vehicle where you're going to do the service. Next thing I did is I already put it up on the ramps so that I can access the underneath of the engine much more simply and easily. And if you're not using ramps, then you don't have to do that. If you are, I suggest you do that prior to doing anything else. Then, of course, open up the engine compartment, and then we have to remove the oil filler cap because the engine is a sealed system and the oil won't drain very well if you leave the oil filler cap on. So prior to removing the oil filler cap, you might want to take a rag or something and wipe around it and clean it up and make sure that there's no dirt here that's going to fall into the engine. You may, even if you have compressed air, blow it out. Okay, so as you can see, mine's fairly clean, so we don't need to really go crazy on that. Okay, so when the oil cap is correctly put on the engine, you'll see that there's 2 little arrows on the left and the right, and they point towards the driver's side wheel and the passenger side wheel when you got it right, and you can read engine oil clearly, in a legible way. Next thing we're going to do is just turn it counterclockwise and remove the cap, and there we have access to the filler port on the engine. Basically, just leave the cap off, and we're going to leave it off while we drain the engine and change the oil filter. So next, we're going to get underneath the car and pull the drain plug. All right, now we're looking at the underside of the engine compartment, and you'll see that's the driver's side wheel there, and on this side, of course, is going to be the passenger side wheel. But near on the passenger side, you'll see a small round opening, and in here is where the actual oil filter is. I'll get you a better angle on that later, but really right now all I want to show you is where the oil drain plug is, and that is back here, right in line with that oil filter. So this is the direction from front of the car to the back, and you'll see right here where my finger is where the oil drain plug is. So I'll get you a new angle on that so you can actually see it. All right, now we're looking at the oil drain plug from the back of the engine forwards to the front of the engine, or the front of the car. And you'll see that there's the exhaust pipe here. Now you're dealing with a hot engine, so be careful with that. It's hot. And the oil plug is right here. And it's a 17 millimeter, and we need to loosen that and then spin it off. Notice that it's going in a direction towards the rear of the vehicle, so don't place the pan directly under it. Place it directly under it, but understand that the stream of oil is going to shoot towards the back of the vehicle, so make sure the pan is back a little bit so you catch the stream. Okay, so there's the plug. I'm going to get that off now. My 17. Now the plug also has a crush washer. I believe it's made out of aluminum. And if it's not cracked or split, you can use it again. Usually they send you one with the oil filter, so they didn't me this time, but I have a lot of extra ones from all the other oil changes I've done where the crush washer wasn't actually damaged and still worked. So let's get that on here and take that off. Okay, so just loosen it up, and then after you've got it loosened up, you should be able to turn it with your finger. Okay, so there it is, loose. I'm just gonna tighten it down, finger tight, and now I'm gonna put my pan underneath it and drain the oil into the pan. Again, remember, this is hot oil. You know, be careful not to drip it on yourself and hurt yourself. I apply forward pressure on the plug until I know it's going to come off, because it helps me from getting less of the oil on me. There we go. And as you can see, that's pretty dirty stuff. This is the first oil change I've done. And I'm going to be using 10W30 Quaker States synthetic. So just let that drain all the way out, and when that's done, we'll get to the actual oil filter next. We're done draining the oil from the drain plug. I've left the drain plug off as per the instructions from Hyundai, and basically drag the pan underneath the oil filter, which is right there. And I can't stress enough that you should have the 80mm wrench to take this filter off with, because it just makes life so much easier, especially with a 6-inch extension. Now understand that there'll be oil behind the filter, so some will fall out and it might be hot, so be careful with that. And as you can see, some oil will splash out. And a little bit more came out there. All right. So let's let that stuff drain out. I'm going to put the filter into the actual pan. Didn't quite mean to do it like that, but it's okay. It's there. All right, here we have the new filter. There it is with the part number. And it has a protective plastic cover on it, which is a nice thing that Hyundai does to keep any kind of dirt from falling inside and shipping and so on. I love that. So prior to putting the new filter on, you want to actually lubricate the seal, which is this black rubber ring around here. And all you do to lubricate that is just dip your finger in the new oil and give it a little rub of oil all the way around. And be liberal with it. Put quite a bit on there, you know, it doesn't hurt it. More is better. That'll be step one. We'll get a little bit of oil on that rubber seal. And another thing I like to do, and they actually I think recommended in the service repair manual for this too, is you want to fill up the oil filter with oil prior to putting it on, so that the engine doesn't have to run dry, or number one. Number two, with the oil in the filter, it'll be a lot easier to determine when you've got the right amount of oil in the engine, as none will be drained from the engine when you first start it. It'll already be in the oil filter. So I'm going to take a little funnel and I'm going to fill up the oil filter, and then we're going to place it back in the engine. Hopefully you noticed there that I had to fill it about 3 or 4 times to let the cardboard inside the oil filter or the filter material inside the oil filter to actually absorb the oil. And as you can see now, it's pretty well there. I don't think it's going to take any more. So it's now ready to be put back into the onto the engine. So we're going to do that next. All right, so first we're going to screw it in by hand, and then we're going to use the torque wrench and filter wrench to actually tighten it down all the way. Careful, like I said, with this thing, because we already know it's got oil in it, so you want to keep it as level as possible. So I'll just put it in, and well, actually I'm going to use my wrench and extension to do this because my hand isn't actually going to fit in there. Okay, so I've got the wrench on there, the 80 millimeter, and we're just going to feed it up in there. Bit of a trick to get it in there, but once you do, you're good. All right, here's a better look at that. So we're just going to turn it until it's finger tight, and then I'm going to use the torque wrench. And the specified torque that they want for this filter is actually 12.3 to 18.1 foot-pounds. So you choose somewhere in between there to go with. I usually go for the highest level, so 18.1 for me. It's up to you where you put it. So I'll put my torque wrench on there and tighten it up. And there we are. It's clicking in at 18.1 for me, and good enough. So I'll take that off now. There we go. And the filter's on. Next we got to put the oil drain plug back on, and we'll torque it to the specified level as well. Okay, so next we're going to put the oil drain plug back in. So if you have a new crush washer, put it on. I have. If you don't, use the old one. Just make sure that it's not split or anything like that, and it should still work okay. So we're going to finger tight that as hard as we can, and then we're going to use the torque wrench on it. And the torque range for that plug is 25.3 to 32.5 foot-pounds. So I'm going to set it to 32.5, and then we'll go from, and then I'll tighten it up to that point using my torque wrench. There we go, 32.5, nice and snug. And next, and last but not least, we're going to have to refill the oil into the engine. So next we're going to pour the oil into the engine and check the level. All right, we're back to the top of the engine. You want to get yourself a good funnel here. So we're going to put a funnel in to the filler hole, the oil filling port. And here's your dipstick. We're going to use the dipstick to check that we don't overfill it. Also make sure that your funnel's nice and clean prior to you starting. Just wipe it off, because dirt and contaminants are an engine's biggest enemy. So you want to keep that out of there. So let's fill it up, and I'm going to check it periodically, the level, to make sure that I don't overfill it, as I have 5 quarts and it actually takes 4.5 quarts to fill it. So let's go with that. Okay, my little gauge. There's a gauge on the back of your oil can too. I don't know if you can see it here in this shot. And it'll tell you how much oil is left in there. So I got about 1.5 quarts left in there. So I'm going to check it now just to make sure that I'm not overfilling it and see where I am. And I'm just touching the bottom of the dipstick right at that point. So you probably can't see that, but basically you need to put some more in there. Now remember, I still have it up on the ramps, and you want to check your oil level, your final oil level off the ramps, so that the engine's nice and level. And you don't want to overfill it, you don't want to underfill it, you want it just on full. All right, let's check that again now. All right, it's just showing at the low level of the fill here. I'm going to put a little bit more in. I'm going to put it, see, there, about that much more there. So my container shows that I have 1 quart left in it, and that means that I should have about 3.5 quarts in the engine at this point, which is more than enough to start it. and get it off the ramps, and then get it on level ground. So I'm going to see where I'm at here on this dipstick. Again, you want to do the final fill when the car is on level ground, so you get an accurate level on your dipstick. Okay, I'm just above low, which is good enough to start the engine, get it off the jacks, sorry, off the ramps, and then we'll finish up when the car is level on the ground. Alright, car's back on level ground, off the ramps. I'm going to check the oil level right now, see where we're at. You should let the engine cool down, or not cool down, but settle for a second or two, a minute or two prior to checking the level after starting it, as it takes the oil a little bit time to go through the engine. So, there we go. Let's see where we're at. Alright, we're just above the low mark, so I'm just going to add some more. I'm actually going to add the rest of it. I'm going to stop right there, not quite all of it. Don't want to overfill it. Well, it's almost at the full dot. See if I can bring that up for you to see. You'll see when it gets to the full dot, it actually has oil in the dot, but we're not there yet. I'm going to put the rest of the bottle in there. And I think we'll be done. And we're right up to the full dot, or the dot where it says full. See if I can get that in focus for you. There we are. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it is there. All right. Now, if you're short, put a little bit more in, and you definitely don't want to be over. That's why you want to keep checking it. So that's how you change the oil on the Hyundai Santa Fe 2003 with a V6 3.5 liter engine. And last but not least, put your oil cap back on and twist it on until it locks. And you should know by seeing the engine oil written across normally, and the two arrows on the cap should be pointing to the driver's and the passenger side wheels. That's it for my video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video and it helped you out in some way, do me a favor, click on the like button right down here. And if you wish to subscribe to my channel, just click on this link up here. And that should subscribe you to the Richard Lloyd channel, or Richard Lloyd USA channel. Okay, again, thank you very much for your time and watching.